Hey, what's up? I'm from More Real Estate and welcome back to another very exciting tutorial. And by the way, this audio comes from Video Copilot and Andrew Kramer. This is very famous VFX creator, and I really love him, and he's doing amazing tutorial. Alright, so if you've ever watched my previous video, and you can know I'm not an English native speaker, so if I say something wrong or my pronunciation is a little bit weird, so please don't mind it. Alright, so I just want to do a tutorial by English, and that you can understand what I'm talking about. Alright, today what we're gonna be talking about is this sort of spinning mechanic robots effect here, and you can see there's a lot of darts here. All of those components combines to a sci-fi robots or artificial intelligence, something like that. And I've watched a little movies, sci-fi movies, and there's a little pet, a mechanic pet, just looks like this. So today I want to do a tutorial about this by using, of course, Element3D. It's my favorite plugins in After Effects. Of course, it's from Video Copilot. Alright, so let's see what's in there. You can see there's a lot of darts here, and there's a glow effect, some sort of energy or lights. Of course, it's sci-fi things, right? So there's a little light, and here's some motion blur here, and nothing big deal, but just looks cool, right? And of course, there's a light from this little dots here, and you can see I create a point light to create this sort of effect, and there's two main light here to light up our scene. Alright, so let's get into it. It's really simple and really cool. So by hitting Control and by the way, here's my shortcuts. Whatever I hit in my keyboard, it can shows you what I'm doing. Alright, so create a new composition, 1980 by 1080, and hit OK. So Control Y, we create a new solid, and we name it shape. Okay. And of course it's black, and of course make comp size, don't forget it, and hit OK. For this layer, we need to create a shape that can extrude an object for us to do that's ring, right? There's a ring. There's a lot of components by the shape. So the first thing we need to do is to create a shape that we use to extrude our object. So we create our shape. We use the pen tool, and here we can open the title action save, and now we can draw a simple shape that you want. Alright, that's as simple as possible you can. Am I saying right thing? As simple as you can. As simple as possible you can. Alright, forget it. Anyway, we need to create a sort of this image here. Just like a darts. Darts, I mean D-A-R-T-S. That's alright, we name it shape. Not a sheep, this is shape. Alright, shape. Alright, so we create this this shape, and we can make some adjustment to it. And there you go. And now we create a new solid, and we name it element. Sorry for the English pronunciation and vocabulary. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, forget it. Screw it. Alright. Okay. Semi this solid may come size and black. It's alright. It's black. And hit OK. And we can disable this layer. We don't need this to show up in our scene. We just need it to be a texture to load it up in our Element3D scene. So alright, so here's the Element3D, and we go to the custom layers and custom text and masks. Sorry, a little bit nervous, but anyway. And we go there and choose our shape we just done before. And now we hit scene setup. Alright, here's our scene, and there we can extrude our shape. But for now, this is not so good. So we need to add some adjustment to it, to the bevel. So first of all, we need to light up the path resolution, and now it's high by default, and we need to change it to extremely, right? Extreme. Alright, so there's a little problem here, and we can fix it by just this. Okay. We can put it to 0, and here's our shape. We can perfectly restore the shape that we draw in After Effects. Alright, so here we can adjust its bevel. Now bevel size is a little bit too little, and we need to increase this value to increase the bevel size and put the extrude to 0. And now we only have the bevel. For the looking to adjustment, we need to add some environment and a shader to this, and we can see this clearly. Alright, so let's choose a bike lights from Video Copilot, of course, and here's a light erase, and that's my favorite light erase. And you know, there's a light erase 2 by 10, a 10 by 2. It's very subtle. Alright, so we have the environment now, and here we need to add some materials to it, and I want to do metallic things. Alright, so we choose a metallic materials to it, and now it's look pretty good. And now we need to lay it down. We hit E and hold down the shift to rotate this, and now it's laid down on our ground. And now we can adjust its bevel, but before that we need to disable this draft textures. And there we can get a higher resolution looking. So now we need to apply some different material to this object to see what happened in this scene. And this is pretty good actually. And now we need to adjust this shader. So first of all, we need to ensure that our glossiness is 100%, and specular we need to add it a little bit higher, and the reflection we need to be 100%. And if this is not so reflective, is a little bit glossiness down, so we need to put down this value, and this can give us a more reflective views and specular. Alright, so now we have the reflection and the specular multiplier, so far so good. And now we can adjust our bevels here and come back to our bevel settings. And first of all, we need to adjust this to 0. And now the bevel curve set to 0. So we can get this sort of effect, this cut down this no curve here to the bevels. Alright. And now we create this sort of effects. And now what we're gonna be doing is to add the other side bevel here. As you can see, there's only one bevel. And of course, we need two bevels here. So we need to open the bevel backside settings. And now we have two bevels. And you know, the ground is just cutting the middle of this bevel. And it's look pretty good. You can rotating the scene and rotating the light to see what we got in our scene and to adjust it. And so for now, I think it's pretty good for me. And of course, this specular is a little bit too higher. So we need to slow it down a little bit. So go to the specular multiplier, slow it down just a little bit. All right, so far so good. Okay, so we can go to the UV settings because this UV map is so it's not dense enough. All right, you understand what I'm talking about? It's not dense enough, so we need to repeat the map a little bit higher, and that we can get some smooth and more details in the object. Alright, so that's our scene setup, and we go to the top view, and by hitting G we can hidden the grade, and we need to adjust the anchor point here. Alright, it need to be a center to spinning around. So now we're getting the right result. So we're hitting the W key and unlock this. We're getting it to our original point. Alright, switch to our perspective view, and now we have set up the scene. Alright, hit OK. Now we can hide this title action save. And now we have the scene now, and we create a new camera. In this case, I'm using 24mm. It's pretty good for us, and definitely not depth of field for now. And hit OK. By hitting C, we can rotate the scene. Alright, and now we have one darts in our scene. So the next thing we need to do is to duplicate it. So go to the particle replicator, and we need to change the replicator shape to ring, and that way we can create a ring effect of this darts. So let's increase the amount of it, and now we get some interesting look. Alright, but this is actually not what I want. I just want it to be a ring, and the outside of the object is the outside of our ring. Alright, so now we need to change the shape scale to 0. And now we sort of getting this effect here. For now, we need to change some settings inside of our particle look. And first thing we need to do is to change the particle rotation. And for Y rotation, it's just spinning around the center, because this center is the center of each part of our component. So we need to change the Z rotation and X rotation. And boom! See what we got. It's pretty cool just by adjusting the X rotation and Z rotation. It's pretty cool. But You know, this is a little bit different from our original effect. All right, it's wiggling from up and down. I'm sorry, up and down. All right, so how do we do that? For that, we need to change a little bit of our scene. We need to set up a auxiliary channels. All right. So first of all, we need to select this folder and right-click auxiliary animation channel 1. And that way we can control the object from the After Effects from outside of this Element3D. And now we can see the aux channels channel 1. Once we changing this value, and you can see our object is wiggling up and down. We can slip back a little bit and we change it a little bit, and now we change the rotation, and you can see our object is rotating around the scene, and of course up and down. It's wiggling. So now we increase this value and slow the particle size down a little bit. It's too big in our scene. Alright, let's start it. Spinning. And now you can see it's just like what we done before. But it still has a little bit difference here. You can see it's spinning around a sphere. It's just like a sphere inside this hole here. So I think this is not the only thing that we can adjust. Alright, we can adjust this, and at the same time we can adjust the X rotation and of course the Y rotation. And now we can get some sort of more complex effect here. Of course, you can by hitting this button to create a new keyframe, and to the other time you can create another keyframe, and now we have this sort of animation effect. But now what we need is a more simple way to do it, because this is very complex to our scene. The only thing we need is a simple time expression. Time times 250, and let's see, it's a little bit too fast. Let's slow down a little bit. 150. Alright, it's pretty good. And same thing for the X rotation, but this is gonna be much slower. I'm gonna be time times 30. Just have a little effect from the precision, Y precision up and down, you know. And now we get the rotation and we get the up and down wiggling effect. Alright, it's pretty good. And now we probably can add some motion blur to it and switch on the motion blur. And of course, by default the motion blur samples is 6, and now we need to increase this value by increasing the render settings, motion blur, and here. If your machine, your computer is great enough, you can put it higher, like 15. I'm sorry. And the quality of this motion blur is getting better. And what if we put 3 in this? And you can see if this spinning faster, this is gonna be the, a big problem in our scene. So right now, I think the 6 is not good enough. I put in 10. Alright, it's pretty good. Okay, now we have this sort of spinning and up and down effect. So now we need to add some light and flares to it. It's pretty simple, but we need to cut it down. And for now, we switch off the motion blur for the fast rendering and viewing. And now we need to change our shape inside of the scene. So for now, we just only see the shape and switch off the transparency background. And now we need to add some holes in our little darts. And now remember to select this shape layer, and we choose the ellipse tool here and hold down Control and Shift. Now for now, we just draw a little shape and Control Shift to draw a perfect circle. And now we need to hold down the Alt and click this to duplicate, but before that we need to change it to subtract. And now we have a hole in our dots. Hold down the Alt key and click this shape and hit Control D to duplicate that. And we can size down a little bit, size up, sorry. And same thing, we make a bigger circle here. And same thing, we can put a hole in there. So duplicate, and here we can scale it up a little bit. Alright, so we changed our original shape, and let's see what's different inside our Element3D. And now you can see there's nothing changed in our scene, but once you click this scene setup button, and here we can see the difference. It's not hard to tell that we made 4 holes in our shape layer, so it's also showed up on our object. It could be used as a light source. So first of all, we need to create a card inside our scene. Back to the top view, and we can adjust the position and scale to it. We need to perfectly fill this hole. And now we need to give it a light material. It's just by default. Just by default, sorry. And now we switch to the what's the words? Transform tool, and we hold down the Alt to create some copies of this card. And of course, don't let this slip away. Alright, so alright, here's our light source. And now switch to our perspective view, and we can see at the other side of this card we can't see the material. So we go to the material and hit the settings, advanced settings, and go there. We need to turn on the draw back faces inside of here. Alright, so now we can see both of this side to see our card. Alright, and hit OK. So now we have the light source and holes in our darts here. And now we need to create some sort of glowing effect. But I'm not gonna be adding the glow here, because you know that Element3D has the glow effect here. But now we need to create a new glow layer. So Control D to duplicate this layer, and in the output you need to select the illumination map. And now we just have the illumination of this scene. And now we need to select the blend mode into screen or add. For now we choose add. And you can see there's nothing big change to our scene. But what if I add something blurry to the effect? We need to add a fast box blur, and we change the repeat edge of pixels. And now we add a little bit blur to it. So now you can see a little bit glowing effect, and we need to adjust this color to the glow. So now we need to add curves and light it up a little bit, and put the right side light up a little bit. And of course the grain lines, we need to add a little bit grain to our highlights, so it's gonna be yellow and some sort of lighting source effect. And the darker sides, we need to put it down, and that we can get a reddish colors in the scene, in our glow. Alright, so we need to put our fast blur greater a little bit. And now we get the glowing effect. We forgot the light in our scene, so we need to create a light. So first of all is parallel light, and by default is 100%, but I need to get a really strong. But what I need is a really strong effect, so I'm gonna be light it up a little bit by around 338, just like that, but not perfectly. And here's the settings for cast shadows, and we need shadows, so keep it up and hit OK. And now we have the light in our scene, which we switch to the 4 views in our scene, and we change the light to get a better light scene. And remember, we need to get some details in our highlights and specular, so careful about that. And here's our camera, here's our light, and this is our main light. We name it main light, and we hit Ctrl D to duplicate this light, and hit P to get the position to this light, and hold down the shift, we can adjusting the light quickly, and we get some just a little bit the light to help the scene a little bit. Alright, it's too high, so let's put down the intensity of this light, and great. Now we have the scene, we have the light, have the glow, and of course we need the flares to it. And Ctrl D to duplicate this layer, and now we need to change the blur dimensions by horizontal. And now we increase this value, and you can see it's only blurred the effect in the horizontal way. So now we can create some sort of I don't know how to say that words. It's just really wide flares, and now we get this effect. So now we can open the motion blur of this, and you can see once I enable the motion blur of this scene, it's gonna be more cool. It's remind me to the Transformers, for the evil of those Transformers. Anyway, you got the idea. Alright, so now we can see that there's a little problem in this scene, that this is it is really sharp. So we need to add a little bit blur, just a little bit, to get this more smooth. So we need to add a fast box blur to the original plate, And now we need to, of course, to enable the repeat add pixels and get a little bit blur. One is too big, maybe 0.5 is great. Alright, so now you can see the difference between blur and not blur. So this blur is very important to our scene. Alright, we need to open up our motion blur, and then we got this scene. And now we get this sort of effect. And of course we need to add a little bit details in our scene. So first of all, we need to add our shadows and enable. And now you can see the shadows in our scene. But sometimes our shadow map is so small, it's not big enough to contain all of our shadows. So please check out this shadow size. And now you can see something gonna happen when I changing this value to 4K, and all of our shadows come back to our scene. And now we get the full shadows. And beside the shadows, we need to add a little bit ambient occlusion to this scene, because they're touching each other. So at the edge of this object, there should be ambient occlusion here. Alright, here's the end of this tutorial. Hope you guys like it, and I really hope that I can help you guys to create something of your own. And you got the idea. If you like it, please hit the subscribe button and I won't let you down. Anyway, I'm from More Realistic, and we will see you next time.